He's he's incredible. He knows how to community build, and he's very much a people person in that sense, where he's able to move within different crowds of people and then cultivate those people.
My name is Father Greg Lambert. I'm a priest of the Archdiocese of Dubuque. I've been ordained for almost 2 years now, and I am the associate pastor over at St. Ed's. I am also the chaplain of Cedar Valley Catholic School. I was born in Melbourne, Florida. I am a Southern young man at heart. So what brought my parents to the US from Honduras, they immigrated over for better opportunities. My dad was a sailor. His name was Antonio Lambert. He was a hard worker, so that's where I learned my work ethic from. My mom was a pharmacy technician for most of my life, and then she was a Walmart associate towards the end of her time working. My mother's name was Mildred, and she is still to this day a very headstrong woman. And so that's where I kind of get my idea and direction in life and how I want to go ahead and do something, not only because it seems like it's something I want to do, but I want to do it because it matters. I was born and raised in a Buddhist household. So my idea, my religious background of the faith, was centered around enlightenment, less than it was centered around a person of Jesus Christ. When it comes to the aspect of falling in love with Jesus, these instances in which this became very real for me was the day of my baptism. The day of my baptism was beautiful. The lights, the smell of the incense, all of this good stuff. And it was the first and the last time that there were ever gardenia flowers on the altar. For me growing up, gardenia flowers are very significant because my household, we had this huge gardenia bush in front of our house. And so in the springtime, my mom would shut off the AC and then open the windows, and when the wind would blow, you can smell the sweetness of gardenia flowers. And it was the first time I think our church has ever had those available. And I walked into the church and I could smell the flowers. And I thought to myself, this feels like home. The first time I ever thought about the word or heard the word vocation, I was at youth group, and my youth minister told us all that as Catholics, it is our responsibility and our duty to discern our vocation. That made me think, well, what am I supposed to be doing? And then I started thinking to myself, well, I really love the Lord, and I feel like God is calling me to serve people. I could probably be a priest. And I remember kicking that idea out of my head immediately. Absolutely not. But the idea never left me because it made sense and it felt good. I felt peace within it. And after high school, I graduated and went straight to seminary. When everything broke out and they shut down all the parishes, and I'm thinking to myself, well, what does priesthood look like when you don't have people? And it's actually incredibly dark and depressing, and it doesn't really have much of a reason and function without people. I decided to take 2 years off after this time of COVID, and I moved to Iowa, where my brother lives in Dyersville. I got offered a job working for a priest as a pastoral associate. I took a trip back to Florida about 6 months after I had moved to Iowa. And this was a significant part of my life because leaving seminary, after being in seminary for 7 years, this was almost all of my young adult life.
I watched as he started to process whether or not this part of his life was going to be his life. Is priesthood truly something that I want, or is it just because I've done this for so long and I've been a seminarian for so long that I'm just going to do it to see the end of it? And that was rough.
So I waited all the way until January to go back home. This was May when I moved to Iowa. During this time, my mom had been calling me and telling me, hey, your pastor wants to talk to you. Hey, your pastor just said hi to me. I saw him this weekend. He said, make sure Gregory calls me because I want to make sure that he knows how much I really still love him and how proud I am of him. He wanted to be there and support like a good pastor. I didn't call him for those months because me mentally, I was thinking, I don't want to go to him with nothing in my hands. I want to achieve something first. And so I waited those months. And I said, finally, now that I got this church job, I'll come home and now I'll sit and talk with you and tell you what I've been doing like I used to. And I had bought my ticket for January 3rd, 2021. My pastor passed away on January 1st, 2021, the first day of the new year. And I remember thinking to myself how much of a fool I was that I didn't get the opportunity because of my own pride to just call him and tell him what I've been doing. It was one of the most difficult parts of my life and a huge regret. And I wish that I would have put my pride aside and called him to tell him how much his life really did impact mine in my own vocation. So that was part of it. Pardon me. So it's so really hard to talk about. The other part of that was, at the time I did not know that my father was very sick. My dad was a big macho man. Didn't want to tell people how he was suffering, so he eventually did go to the hospital, and he succumbed to having a stroke and also kidney failure. So my father passed away at the end of February of the very same year. So the very beginning of January, I lost my spiritual father, and the end of February, I lost my biological father. And what had set in my mind behind incredible, crushing grief was the understanding that all the people, the two men in my life that I wanted desperately to see me do this, were now gone. And I couldn't bring them back. Now, there is a clarity of mind to not achieve, but to simply be.
And he came out of that very much a better person. It kind of felt like you threw someone into the fire and said, you're not coming out until you're ready.
The Lord used my own suffering and pain to show me where I needed to be healed. And he healed me. He truly did. What it means to be the first black priest ordained in Iowa. During this entire story, at no point did I say I want to move to Iowa and be the first black priest. This was not within my purview in the slightest. But what had happened originally is I told my brother Gio, I said, hey, we were joking in the house, probably third theology. I was about to become a deacon, and he had asked his wife, who is a native Iowan, Brittany, have you ever seen a black priest in Iowa that was American, that was ordained here? And Brittany, who's in her mid-30s at the time, saying to herself, no, I've never experienced that. And so Gio starts researching.
But I realized very quickly that if I was going to do this, I need a team. So I ended up calling a whole bunch of my colleagues and people from cross disciplines. Then we found this book. It was a compendium of all the black priests ordained in the United States from Augustus Tolton till about 1995. Zero in the state of Iowa. There's a lot of other states where it has zero too, but in the state of Iowa, zero.
Let's offer each other a sign of peace.
In the United States, black community makes up 1% of the Catholic Church. Theoretically, we should also make up about 1% of the priesthood. No, that's not it at all. And so there was only 300 of them from the 1800s till about the mid-90s. And by 2024, it was 187 years.
Do you know how many historical things have happened in 187 years? The wars that have happened, the inventions that have happened, penicillin. We're talking about sliced bread. I mean, airplanes, nuclear weapons. All of this stuff has happened before there was ever a black priest that existed within the state of Iowa. Why things have happened the way that they've happened? Why they've unfolded the way they've unfolded? And what that means to me is less of a title and more of a responsibility, because there are many people in this state who look like me, who ask themselves, does anyone see me? And does the church have a place for me? In the very same way that the bishops and the cardinals of our church say that the church is for everybody, I get to be on the front lines of saying that, yes, that is true. So the hope within all of this is not to be celebrated in the slightest. It's that my face and name get lost amongst the very long line of other people who look like me, who achieve the same thing that I did. I want to be able to open that door and inspire people to say, you don't have to be like me, but you can be you and get to the same place where I am. You too can be as deeply joyful as a priest, no matter what you look like or where you're from. That would be the goal and the dream.